Hello, and welcome back to Juno's Musings. I'm Juno, intimacy provider and educator, here to share some of my musings with you from my time working in the industry. My hope is to support those of you who are new to doing this work and those of you who are curious about joining. You may notice I am not in my usual setup. If you've seen even one of my previous episodes, you will definitely notice because you are a smart cookie. While I'm usually based in Toronto, currently I am in beautiful Vancouver, which is classically cloudy outside. Beautiful city, but a lot of cloudiness. And so I thought I would record my next episode here in this hotel, which will not be named because I don't think hotels would sponsor my type. I don't really know if they, hopefully they don't know what I'm doing here, but I don't think they would like it if they did. So hotel will be unnamed. You can't see any. It's a bed. There's nothing revealing about this bed. And I thought that recording this episode in a hotel while I am on tour would be appropriate because today I would like to talk about touring as an intimacy provider. I myself have toured quite a bit, and it is something that my friends in the industry will sometimes ask me questions about because I do have a fair amount of experience with touring. So I thought maybe you, viewer, would find it helpful to learn about touring as well. These days, I mainly tour in Canada. I tour from the West Coast, like currently in Vancouver. I was this morning in Calgary. I've toured in Kelowna, and all the way to the East Coast. I tour in Halifax and St. John's, Newfoundland, and some places in between like Waterloo, Sudbury, Sault Ste. Marie, Montreal. I tried Ottawa, but Ottawa didn't really like me, so not Ottawa. I also have toured in Australia twice. The first time I was there for 4 months, and the second time I was there for 3 months. And each time I was bouncing around the country. I've toured, the best I did was in Brisbane, so I've toured quite a few times in Brisbane, and then all the way to the other coast in Perth, and Sunshine Coast, Sydney, Melbourne, Adelaide. Adelaide was the best city that I've ever toured in. I made really good money, and I was touring in Australia because it was initially federally or nationally legalized intimacy providing. And so I got a working visa. I had a intimacy provider accountant. I claimed taxes, and it was very easy because of that I wasn't, trying to do illegal things. So it was really realistic to be able to tour there. What I didn't know was that each state then shifted their own laws from this federal legalization. I kind of did know that because I knew that Victoria and New South Wales, where Melbourne and Sydney are, they decriminalized intimacy provision, which is our ideal legalization model. Check out my episode on should this work be legal if you want to know more why decriminalization is the best. So I did know there was some state-by-state differences, but I unfortunately had an oversight that maybe some went backwards from legalization. And so South Australia, or South Australia is the state. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, where Adelaide is, and they've actually made it illegal. And I think Northern Territory also has made it illegal. So I'm touring in Adelaide. I'm like, wow, I'm making so much bank. This is great. I've booked clients that are seeing me and then booking me again 2 days later in the only week that I'm here. Cha-ching! And then I think it was on my last night, one of my clients said, oh yeah, well that's because it's illegal here. So I was like, oh, oops. So that's to say, if you're going to tour in other countries, I recommend checking the legalities around that. So in countries where it is allowed is obviously the safest place to work, but you would want to get a working visa, because if you have a visitor visa or like a holiday visa, then you would be working illegally. So it would be maybe not as bad as working in a country where the work is illegal, but still technically you're working illegally if you don't have a working visa. Those are the only 2 countries I've currently toured in or up to date have toured in. I would love to tour in the States, but it is quite illegal there. So I'm not dealing with the southern neighbors of Canada. I would like to tour in Germany and in the UK and Amsterdam, and Singapore is somewhere that's, when I was in Australia, I noticed a lot of Australian providers would go tour in Singapore. One of the major advertising sites in Australia is for Australia, New Zealand, and Singapore. So it kind of shows it's quite common. New Zealand is another one. They were, I believe, the first country to decriminalize intimacy provision. So they're somewhere that you could get a working visa and do this work without fear of being put in jail. Touring can be financially a little bit risky. There's a lot of upfront costs that you have to pay versus if you're working in your own city. There's flights and hotels, possibly visa costs if you're going internationally. And even if you have a lot of pre-bookings before you go on tour, which I will chat about, you could end up getting last-minute cancellations while you're already there, and then you're in the hole for the expenses that it took to do this tour. So there is more risk with touring that you will financially lose out. That said, I did 5 years of kind of like hobby intimacy providing, and now I'm in 4 years of taking this work very seriously. So I've mainly been touring the past 4 years. And in that time period, I would say all the best weeks I've had financially have been tours. Don't get me wrong, I have some great weeks in Toronto, but if I look at even subtracting the expenses of what it costs me to go on tour, my most profitable weeks have always been tours. And when you're touring, you are funding getting to check out new places. So that's why I toured in Australia. I really wanted to see Australia, which I will say is a gorgeous country. And if it wasn't so hard to immigrate there, I would probably be there right now. I still love you, Canada, but summer all year round with amazing beaches, yeah. So touring is fun. Right now, when I'm touring in Canada, it's very work-based. I come to a city, I stay for a short period of time, I see clients, and I leave. I don't really do a lot of exploring, but if you want to integrate travel into your touring, maybe your expenses will be higher, so you won't profit as much, but you get to travel expenses paid. So if travel is something you're into, then I am an advocate for touring. So when you're on tour, there's stuff to do, but first I'm going to talk about the prep work of setting up a tour. Personally, I tour quite a lot, and so I usually have, I would say 3 to 6 months in advance, my tours planned out of where I'm going to go when. And as soon as I have those planned, I advertise those on my website. So on my site, I have a availability page where I have a little blurb about my availability in Toronto, where I'm based. And then I have a tours section where I list the cities and dates that I will be in people's cities. So that's usually at least a couple months in advance. I also personally have a newsletter that I inconsistently send out. If you're a client watching this, you know. Sometimes I send one a month and then I have nothing for 3 or 4 months. So working on that. But usually when I get my tour schedule for the next 3 to 4, 5, 6 months, that is a motivator for me to send out a newsletter, and I'll say some little things about what's going on in life, some hello Juno updates, and then I will list the cities that I'm going to and when I will be going to them. So I have my website schedule, and I have my newsletter to alert my subscribers in different cities that I will be visiting them. Then when it's about a month before the tour is going to start, that's when I start more formally advertising, like on advertising platforms. I don't know if I have any international viewers, but this is going to be quite Canadian specific for a minute. There are a few different advertising sites that intimacy providers in Canada use. The more high-end one that I primarily use is Tryst. This site, to me, and from what I've heard from essentially all of my colleagues, tends to draw a not necessarily better clientele, but more consistently serious clientele. So when I get somebody who says, "Hey Juno, I found you on Tryst," I'm like, check, okay, this person is more likely to actually follow through with a booking, with my screening process, my deposits. There's just kind of a higher professionalism, I find, to this site. And so with Tryst, you have your main profile with your home city. Depending on your subscription level, how much you pay monthly, then you could have, I think, up to 3 home bases. I personally just have Toronto set as my home base, but then there's also a tours section. So you can list the cities and dates that you will be visiting. And then on the Tryst search, if a client is searching in Vancouver, my window is here. Maybe you can tell from the lighting, but that's why I keep pointing to Vancouver outside there. So if someone is searching in that city, my profile will pop up in the search page, and it will have a little airplane to show that I'm not based here, but I'm touring here, and it'll show the dates. So with Tryst, I will set up my tours. Right now, I have, I think, 2 or 3 months in advance my tours listed in there, just because I like to be organized. I don't want to forget to do it at the time that it needs to be done. But I think on my profile, if someone goes to my profile, it will show my list of tours for however far in advance you want to post them, I believe. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's a thing. But you don't show up in searches until it is 1 month before the tour. So for instance, I am coming back to Vancouver and Calgary, and I'm going to try Regina for the first time in the beginning of December. And so if someone's searching intimacy providers in Regina, it won't show up on Tryst that I'm touring there until early November or 1 month before I'm going to be there. So definitely, if you're trying to be a high-end intimacy provider and draw in high-end clientele, I would recommend being on Tryst. They do have a tiered subscription rate. There is a free version if you want to test it out, but I definitely recommend that. Another major advertising site in Canada is LeoList. Not sponsored by them, and don't know if I want to be, but I mean, I do use it, so I guess if you want to throw me some free credits, I'll take that, but I'm not going to talk you up too much. LeoList kind of replaced Backpages, which ended just before my time. I think it was like the year before I started. Backpages used to be the main advertising site for intimacy services. And I will note that it's illegal to be a third party in advertising these services. I talk about this in other episodes, but pretty much providing services, what we as intimacy providers do, is allowed. It is legal in Canada, but everything around it is illegal. So if you're a client purchasing services, that's illegal. If you are supporting our work in any way, so if you are security, a driver, an admin or booking assistant, or a platform that allows us to advertise, those are all illegal. So Tryst is actually based out of Australia, and LeoList, I believe, is based out of the UK. Anyways, that's just kind of random knowledge for you. Not that relevant to using the platform. but you can advertise on LeoList. It's more of a forum of ads. So rather than searching profiles, you would see advertisements like Kijiji and those kind of things. So instead of making a profile that lists your tours, every city that you want to work in, you would have to make an ad. You'd have to have a Toronto ad, and then have a Vancouver ad, a Calgary ad. Personally, even though I mainly work in Toronto, I don't advertise on LeoList in Toronto. That's not necessarily that it's a terrible platform, even though I will say how Trist gets a lot more consistently booking clients. LeoList, you get the, hi, you avail now, and then they just want free pictures, or maybe they do want to book a date, but they're more sketched out about screening and deposits, and then say mean things back to you when you advocate for your own safety. So I have got some really, really great clients off LeoList, but I would say maybe for Trist, every few people who contact you, one actually turns into a booking. Whereas on LeoList, it's very heavy in admin. I would say for every 20 people that message me from LeoList, one actually turns into a booking. So it's not to say you won't find clients on there, but it is a lot more work. And honestly, it's not any cheaper than Trist, especially if you're touring and you're posting ads in different cities. So yes, I don't do it in Toronto, honestly, primarily just because there's so many providers there that you pay based on the city. So bigger cities are more expensive to post an ad. So I think it might be like $12 to post an ad. In Toronto, I'm not exactly sure, but it's more expensive versus smaller cities where it's $7 to post an ad. And in Toronto, I post an ad and within an hour I'm off page one. So you have to bump your ads up so much to stay within viewers or clients, potential clients' radar. And so I just think I'd rather just pay for Trist. But a lot of smaller cities that I tour in, I find Northern Ontario, I tour North Bay, Sudbury, and Sault Ste. Marie quite regularly. And the smaller cities don't tend to know about Trist as much. LeoList is the main way people find providers. So when I'm touring, I will set up an ad. I've paid to start the ad already. So I'll just, once I have my tours set up, I'll edit the title to put the dates that I'm going to be there. And then with LeoList, I would say maybe 2 weeks before I'm going to the city, I'll bump the ad every few days. And it depends, I'll check how far down it is, but once it's at ad 100, then I'll bump it back up. And so then Trist, you set it all up, it displays itself 1 month before, you don't really have to do anything. LeoList, I'll bump the ads every few days, 2 weeks before going to the city, especially smaller cities where Trist isn't used as much. There are other places you can advertise. I have tried advertising on review forums. So there is one big one for Toronto. There's also a big one for Calgary and for Vancouver, pretty much the bigger cities, and this same organization, I don't want to call them that, but they also have one in Montreal. So there's a few different forums in the big cities in Canada. So this is where clients who have met a provider can go into this forum and write a review. I myself and many providers I've talked to have very mixed feelings about these review forums. They can be very degrading, and they can be good for business to get reviews for sure, no doubt. If you have a client that you really like and you know they would write a respectful, positive review about you, I encourage you to ask them to write a review. You could even give some kind of incentive, like an extra half hour on a booking or something if they write a review, if that's something you want to do. But sometimes reviews are written that aren't even necessarily negative about the experience, but they're just gross feeling. Like, it's just like, why would you describe my body and my personality and bleh. So mixed feelings about these review forums. Because of that, I personally don't want to support them. And I'm not even sure that I have gotten that much business out of them. So I save my dollars for the more formal advertising sites. You do have to pay to advertise on the forums as well. But that is an option if that's something you want to try out and see how it works for you, especially if you have reviews on the forum. You can post an ad on the forum and link to your reviews so people know you're legitimate. So I advertise on my website, through my newsletter, through some formal ad sites, and then I'll usually make a cute little image on Canva and post that to my social media, which right now I'm using Blue Sky and Instagram. I've abandoned X because they don't like me and my type of people, so I don't really want to deal with getting banned every few weeks. So Blue Sky is my main focus. So I'll make like a little image that has the cities and the dates. You could even just do that in the text of the post. And those I would say are the main ways that I set up to find clients. Other things to do in preparation of a tour are booking accommodations. I do have an episode on where do intimacy providers work if you want more details on hotel versus Airbnb. I have historically kind of switched between the two depending on time of life and maybe previous, most recent experience. Lately, I've been touring in hotels. Honestly, that's mainly because I have a chain that I'm not going to say who, but I like their point system. Airbnb doesn't give me free nights, so I've been kind of loyal to one hotel chain. That's really the only reason why I'm doing hotels. I do like Airbnbs because you can have laundry. I personally find it very awkward to ask for extra towels and sheets. I do because I have to, but I find that very uncomfortable. So I do like Airbnbs for having laundry. And yeah, but I've mainly been using hotels. And I will book my hotels far in advance to make sure that I have the room that I want, but I pay a little bit extra to get the option with free cancellation. There's usually different options. It's a little bit more to have cancellation like a week before, a little bit more than that to have cancellation up to the day of, whatever your comfort is. I tend to book my hotels well in advance with a cancellation option so that if I'm advertising for the tour and for whatever reason it's not getting booked up, then I can cancel the hotel, no cost to me. But if the tour is going well and getting bookings, then I know I'm going to have a nice place to see my clients. A little bit closer to the tour date, I would say maybe 3 weeks before. Depends on the time of year. I book my flights closer to because it's quite a lot extra to have the cancellation option for flights. So I'll usually, once I have seen that, okay, it looks like I have enough bookings to make this tour worth it, then I will book my flights. I know my hotel is secured. And those are pretty much the basics of setting up for a tour, getting your advertisings out, getting your hotel booked. Once you have things confirmed, getting your flight booked, and then you are good to go. Fly away. Oh, actually, also, sometimes I don't fly places. When I tour in Ontario, I drive there, so that's nice and easy. You can wait to determine if a tour is going to happen up until like a few days before. But when I'm coming to Vancouver or Calgary or Halifax, then I fly, so that's another factor and cost to put into the equation. I will also note when I am booking clients for tours, I do my normal screening process. So I ask for either a selfie holding photo ID or an established LinkedIn profile that then I send a connection request to. They have to accept it to confirm it's theirs. They can disconnect once I've seen it if they need. That's what I do in Toronto. That's what I do when I'm touring. I don't see people who don't screen. In terms of deposits, I do have a much smaller deposit when I'm in Toronto because if someone cancels last minute, I cancel my in-call space. That doesn't cost me anything. I'm then just chill at home instead. It's not a big deal. Whereas when I am touring, I'm fronting the costs of flights or rental car and gas and hotel. And if I come all the way to Vancouver and I spend a handful of hundreds of dollars to be here and people last minute cancel, I don't want to be out money. Yes, I won't be profiting, but I don't want to lose money based on coming here. So I do have a higher deposit when I'm touring, just to make sure that my expenses are covered. I also ask anywhere, Toronto or touring, if someone cancels within 24 hours of a booking, I like to be paid that booking fee in full. When I'm in Toronto, I don't really reinforce it. If someone offers it to me, that's great. You get huge brownie points in my books. The next time I see you, I'm going to treat you extra good. But when I'm touring, I do, as much as possible, try to reinforce that. Obviously, if I ask someone, hey, you canceled 5 hours before, would you be able to e-transfer me or PayPal or Bitcoin, whatever, the full booking cost? Yeah, they could decline to do that. I do ask for that, and depending on how it goes, maybe I won't book that person again. If they refuse to send the full booking fee, and then I'm out money because of that, and it's too short notice to be able to fill the spot with someone else, then that might affect whether or not I see them on a future tour. One more random tip that I personally do, I do not want to get sick right before or during a tour because, again, I've fronted all this money, and it's one thing for one client on a tour to cancel. It's another for me to catch a cold or the flu and now I can't go, or I'm on the airplane and I catch a cold and now I'm in Vancouver and Calgary sick and I have to cancel all my clients and just sit grumpy in a hotel sick. So I personally, the week before a tour, I take echinacea every day for immune system support. You might have your own immune system support things that you like to take, but I really try to make sure that I stay healthy so that this tour can happen. I also tend to not party or go out, or I just really try to make sure I stay healthy before I go on a tour. That's my last tip for pre-tour planning. Okay, so now we're on tour. Yay, touring. This section of this episode is probably actually the smallest because there's not really that much of a difference between touring and working in calls, or maybe when you're touring you get out calls as well, so you leave your hotel and go to someone else's hotel or home or whatever, but it's really not that different than doing an in-call where you're based. So you fly in, you get to your hotel, you check in, you cross your fingers that it's not a key card elevator, and I guess this should have been in pre-tour planning. Bring an out-call outfit. Even if you don't have any out-calls booked, you might get a last-minute out-call, so you want to have an outfit you can go to out-calls with, but also you want a nice but professional, not too obvious, I'm about to provide intimate services to this person type of outfit, so that if you have a key card elevator, you can go meet your client downstairs, bring them up to the room without either being... So when I am seeing clients, when I'm in a hotel that doesn't have a key card, I tend to wear lingerie with my black silk robe over it and just answer the door in that. Obviously, if I go down to the lobby looking like that, the hotel is pretty quickly going to catch on to she's not a regular guest. And while you're allowed to provide intimate services in Canada legally, I'm pretty sure you're not allowed to run businesses out of hotels, which are private establishments. So even if I was a massage therapist, not a happy ending massage, just like regular massage therapy, or I was a counselor or a physiotherapist, you can't work out of hotels, I'm pretty sure, because it's already a business. So then there would be liability insurance with you running a business out of it, blah, 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 blah. And just the stigma of being an intimacy provider. You want to be discreet as possible. AKA, I recommend not going downstairs in your lingerie and a robe. You also maybe don't want to be going down in your track pants and a long sleeve shirt that you flew here in. Maybe, depending on the type of services you provide, you want to be a little bit more high-end seeming. And so having some kind of out-call outfit, whatever feels good for you, if that's a dress or a skirt or nice pants or whatever it is, packing that outfit in advance, even if you don't have out-calls booked, so that if you check in and there's that key card elevator, you can have a nice but discreet outfit to go pick up your clients. I will say both the hotels I used in Calgary the last couple days and now that I just checked in Vancouver, both have key card elevators. So what I do is I get my client I explain it's a key card elevator, message me when you are arriving at the hotel, when you're entering the hotel, and then go to the elevators to around the corner to the left of reception or whatever. I explain where the elevators are so they're not like, oh, like they can just walk there confidently looking like a hotel guest. I tend to book at larger hotels because more people coming in and out, the front desk staff are less aware of who is a guest and who is not. Once they text that they've arrived, I go to the elevator, and then if there are multiple elevators, which usually is the case in larger hotels, I'll message elevator 2 or whatever. And then ideally the doors open and they just walk in. I don't even have to get out and be seen in the lobby. That's what I've found most discreet. That's pretty much it for what to do on an actual tour. So now with when you get home, there's a little bit of post-tour admin that I do. I love Excel sheets. I like to track my expenses, my income, and then I can determine what my profit was from a tour, so I know if that city is worth going back to. I will note that tours are best when you go semi-regularly, even if that's every few months, so that you build your clientele base. So I'll text clients after, say a little like, that was great to meet you, I had so much fun. Would you like me to contact you when I have my date set for my next tour to your city? If they say yes, awesome, you did a good job. And then I have, for each city that I tour, I have a Excel sheet where I put their name, their contact information, when I first saw them, and any notes about booking, like how long they booked for, or if weekdays or weekends are better for them, that kind of information, so that when I'm planning my next tour, I can contact the people I've already seen and ideally rebook them and then get a couple new people. And each time I go, then I build my harem of clients. What I have occasionally done, I wouldn't say I do it consistently, but I have sometimes when I already have an established group of clients in a city, I will make a survey. I use SurveyMonkey. There's a lot of different platforms you can use. And I will have a questionnaire of, here are some dates I'm thinking about going to your city. Please select all that you would be available. And then maybe some other questions like, how long would you like to book? Are you looking for in-call or out-call? I probably know that about the client anyways, but that way, then once everyone's filled it out, I can look at the survey results and say, okay, the most people are available this day. So I'm gonna go to the city this day or weekend or whatever. And that I've found useful and makes you seem quite professional, I think, and it's really helpful for planning. I don't do it that consistently. Maybe I should. It has been good when I have done it in the past. I will say with some cities, I will post an ad in a city for the first time, and maybe I get a couple people interested, but it's not enough to make it worth going there, especially if it's a further city that you need flights. And so I will cancel that tour and I will tell the clients, unfortunately, I haven't had enough bookings to move forward with this tour, but I'm hoping to try again in the next couple months. Can I reach out to you when I have those dates set? And then I will try advertising again for that city, and knowing I already have a couple people interested, so if I can get a couple more to make it worthwhile for the expenses, then that's something that I've done for building a worthwhile base in a new city. So there's a little bit of info on pre-tour admin. touring and some post-tour wrap-up. I hope that if touring is something that's of interest to you, if you like travel and you are okay with the potential monetary risks, but then the potential monetary gains, if that's, a little bit of risk is something that you're comfortable with, then I hope you found some useful information from this episode. As always, if you want to comment or send me a message via email or social media or text, whatever, I really do this because I hope to support others in my industry, especially those who are new and up and coming. So that's what keeps me going, and I would love to hear from you. In the meantime, have fun traveling. Bye.